Hi folks, I'm Bob Main. We are the Modern Handgunners, and with me is
Ben Branham, and we're here today at this section to talk about knives. Me and Bob got our two favorite folding fighters, blah blah blah, the knives that we actually carry every day. That's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so let me start. Why a knife? Second only to my flashlight, this is the second most used thing that I carry. This thing I've never used and in self-defense, and I hope I don't. However, I might be more likely to use this. But let me talk about it first of all from a utility standpoint. This is my my Benchmade Mel Pardue knife. This is my favorite everyday carry knife. I believe, and I'm gonna look this up on their website, and I'm gonna give Ben the show notes so when he posts this video, he puts the right stuff in there. I believe this is a carbon steel blade, and I really like it. It's very durable. It's got a couple scratches, but this thing's like 8 years old or something like that, 7 years old. One reason why I like this is because of this button right here. Okay, in order for me to, if I want to be able to open the knife quickly, all I've got to do is just pull back on this and give it a little flick. And so it's almost spring loaded, but it's not. And it's also got a real nice little thumb stud right there to make it easy if I want to open it with just hitting it like that with my thumb. The grip on this, it's not a handle, by the way. I hate it when people say handles. It's a grip. The grip on this is nice and grippy. I mean, it's, you know, it doesn't slip. One of the things about knives, I have a different knife that I'm not so crazy about because my hand slips on it. It's like a gun. I want to be able to maintain a firm grip. You know, the thing about knives is that, oh, by the way, one more thing I'm going to show you. This is easily reversible, right hand carry, left hand carry, doesn't matter. So just a nice knife. Is it economical? No, not really. It's not really economical. I paid a lot of money for it, but it lasts. Benchmade's got some of the best products out there. Again, it's easy to use, it's smooth, it's fast, it stays sharp. This blade, I mean, you know, I go a year without sharpening this thing. It stays sharp. I think the important thing about any utility knife or even self-defense knife, it's got to stay sharp for a long time, because I get busy and I just it's like cleaning guns. I don't like to clean guns and I don't like to sharpen knives.
So my current carry right now is this CKRT, or the Cricket knife. I like these Carson design, blah blah blah. It's an M16-14 DSFG.
Looks like a knife to me, not an M16.
So all the other dashes, how long and everything it is. I really like this one, and I went to this one a while ago. This is not my favorite fighting folder knife. This is my favorite utility knife. Really, Spyderco makes my favorite fighting folder knives. I like those, but every single one of them I've had, I break the tips off, and they're more expensive than the CKRTs, but that Japanese steel is razor sharp. Generally, when I take that one, I can shave my arm with it. This one, not so much, but I don't ever sharpen this one, so that's probably why too. This knife, and I'll give you the story behind why I switched to this one, Bob. I was carrying one of those super duper folding fighting knives. I'm standing at work inside this metal building, and here in Texas they have a lot of metal buildings that have just a sheet metal siding on it with a bunch of insulation in it, and then a metal frame inside. We're standing there, and then that's got what holds the insulation is just a little bit of chicken wire and really thin stuff. With a good knife you could cut through it, and I'm looking at my Spyderco going, I don't know if I could breach that wall with my Spyderco. With the CKRT, it's a much fatter knife. You see the bigger spine and everything. I know I could breach that wall with the knife and push through. And the reason I was thinking about that is because we had a bunch of flammable stuff up next to the door. I fixed this, by the way. Somebody had welded shut the back emergency door on this place, so there was only one way out. And if we got stuck in there and a fire happened, there was no way we could get out the back. We'd have to breach the wall to get out. And I'm looking at my Spyderco thinking, that Spyderco is probably going to break on me, and I'm not going to be able to breach a hole big enough to get out, and I might burn to death. So after that, I went, you know what? A fighting knife should be a utility first and a fighting knife second. because of a lot of other videos and stuff and other people's work out there, like John Correa, that hasn't seen somebody use a fighting knife as a self-defense, a fighting folding knife as a self-defense yet. You know, actually fixed blades are more popular and actually being used. But so I went, hey, you know what? This is more likely for me to happen and have to use this thing as a utility than a fighting knife. So I wanted something that would double more. And this one is definitely a utility knife. You know, when I bring it over here, it's got huge options on it. It's got a giant spine back here, so really, really thick blade. It's got the Tonto blade, so I can poke into stuff and pry out, and that's what I do with this one a lot as a utility. It's got the teeth on it. I like the teeth. They just look nasty, jagged, and they are. They cut rope. They cut everything really well. Got a nice big flat blade there, so it's easy to actually sharpen. It's got steel lining in it with this, I don't know, carbon fiber, plastic kind of feely thing, but it's really good. And the other thing I like about this knife is these two ends on it. I really like this because when I get in there and I get a good grip, but if I get in like this and I'm prying against something and my hand slips, it won't slip off the blade. With
That's
other
a
stuff,
good feature.
Without this, when I pry on stuff, I feel my hand slip down a little bit, and that makes me nervous when I'm prying on something and my hand slips down, and I'm thinking, oh, it's going to slip across the blade and I'm going to cut the crap out of my fingers. So I really like that design. There's a couple other things that are great about this knife. Got a really cool pocket clip like everything else, but the pocket clip is reversible for carrying it tip up or tip down or left-handed or right-handed. So you can put the tip anywhere you want. It's got a standard liner in the right here with the, I forget what they call this thing, but it's the normal liner that you push across, but it has a feature on the back, and I'll go back over here so you can see it. You can see the standard lock right here, the spring lock in the liner. A liner lock, that's what it's called. But it won't lock, and this won't move unless you push this little thing right here to get it out of the way, and then it'll close. So I really like this little extra Dewey, so I don't mind. I can pry on it, press on it, get in there, and I'm not worried about the knife closing on me. And that's always something that's been a fear of mine when I'm working with a folding knife instead of a fixed blade knife, because a fixed blade knife is just not going to fold on you. I've never seen one of these fold. I don't think it will. I've pushed on them a bunch. This one, I had the older version, and I got this one. One of our students gave this one to me, came by the gun shop when I worked there, and gave it to me as a tip. He saw I had the old one, he had the new one, so he came by. So I don't know how much he bought it for, but it was an awesome, you know who you are. Thank you very much. I'm still carrying the knife that you gave me, and this is 3 or 4 years later. But I really like this knife. The other thing I really like that this is, you know, there's two design knives that do this. When it's in my pocket, it sits in my pocket. I carry it tip up when it's folded, but when I pull on it, it catches, and I can make it come out of my pocket locked open, more like a fixed blade knife than a folding knife. And everybody that, even though you're so fast, I know you pull your knife out and you're like, ha, I got my knife. You can see that no matter what I do, if I put it in there and I grab it and then I pull it out and it comes out open, I got news for you. That's faster than anything you could do flipping the knife, any other lock out there. And there's only 2 makers that do that, CKRT, and that actually, and when you look at it, if you put it inside my pocket like this and you see it, as I pull it up, this right here catches on the pocket as I pull it out, and up it comes out and locked. So I like that. And there's another company that uses the edge of the blade here and comes out. I used to carry one of those for years and years, and I finally wore out the knife. And then, well, that was a great knife. But I missed that knife. But I bought it for 75 bucks. It wore out in about 10 years. Can't complain about that. But then when I went to replace it, they're now $350. And I went, maybe I could find a cheaper alternative. So these are about 75 bucks to 125, somewhere in there. And depending on what steel you want and what handle and everything and what grip material. But I've pried with them. I haven't broke them. There's only a little bit on the blade where I've pushed through rocks and needles and stuff at work. And it hasn't broke, it hasn't failed me. I don't plan it ever to fail me. I'll probably wear out the liner sooner or later. About every 6 months I gotta put a drop of oil in there, or the thing, my knife scared Bob's knife. About every 6 months I gotta put a drop of oil in there, or it doesn't really come open real clean when I try to push it. It won't lock all the way. It just it'll come up and be like halfway, kind of like that. And it stops right there. So every 6 months, put a drop of oil in there. That's the only maintenance I've done on this thing. And, well, I sharpen it, and I just use a sharpening stone because it's a flat blade. Anything else you want to say about your
there's
knife?
some other things I want to say. One thing about knives, we here at Modern Handgunners, We don't give legal advice, and we're not responsible for any kind of laws that you might break. So know your knife laws in your state. There are some places that have some really crazy knife laws. This one is obviously legal here in Texas. If you have blade length laws or very restrictive laws, consider moving. Anyway, but go to a free place like here in Texas or something like that. But know your laws. Same thing with firearms. All of our advice here, we basically talk about what we can do here in Texas. And I'm sorry, like I said, you might want to move if you take your self-defense extremely seriously, like we do. The other thing about knives that I want to talk about is, and you touched on it, Ben, is utility purposes. It's a folding knife for me is much more of a utility tool than it is a self-defense tool. I think the idea that I am going to be able to, if I have a bad guy here, that I'm going to be able to go like this and go like this and fight. You know, first of all, I'm not trained in that. Second of all, I think this might be a more effective deterrent than a knife. Maybe, I don't know, some of you might disagree. Give us some comments and things like that. But you were mentioning Active Self-Protection, which is a great channel. John Correa is a great guy. He has, 0 videos of somebody using a knife in self-defense? And he's got thousands of videos.
Talked to him in person one time and asked him about it, and he said he hasn't seen one of the knife actually yet. He's heard of a couple of them. I know of a couple of them, but he hasn't seen one on video yet.
Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but you don't have much video.
So it's pretty rare. Guns are more used. And then, yeah, some of the other guys in the industry that I'm starting to talk to in back channels and stuff, so I'm not going to give names, they're starting to talk about less and less carrying the knife as a weapon and more as a utility, because they start pulling these things out in court, and you pull the karambit with the hook on the end, and the knife comes out the bottom and and it looks like it's designed to gut somebody, not as a utility. When you pull out the Benchmade, one of these, and you go, oh, it's a utility knife. I use it at work every day to pry things, to break things, to cut things, and I just happened to have it on me when that guy attacked me and I didn't have my gun, so I used my knife. Now it's more defensible in court. And again, we're not legal, but that's kind of some of the conversations that I'm actually having with the higher end knife guys in the industry when I meet them, is about them changing their thoughts on what knife they carry because of that. And these are the guys that will they will gut you like a fish if you want to have a knife fight from them. They're the ones that are true experts. I wouldn't. Yeah, that's one of the guys. If he had a knife and he's 50 feet over there, I'd just shoot him. I'm not going to get in close. I'm not going to let him get close to me. Forget the 21 feet. 50, 100. Now we're talking. But yeah, so these are the high-end guys. So just something to think about when you guys all think about, hey, I'm going to use my knife for self-defense. I'm super duper fast, and I'm going to stab and cut somebody. If you haven't tried it, it's probably not going to work. If you haven't practiced a lot, it's probably not going to work. And then in court, I don't know how defensible that's going to be. But if you get on video like we do, and you say, hey, I carry mine as a utility more than a self-defense. It may double as self-defense, but it's like any other weapon of opportunity that I would pick up like a rock off the ground and hit somebody with if I didn't have something better as a weapon, and it was the last ditch to defend myself. Just a legal thought for you. Don't go around telling people how you're going to gut people like fish, and then get in court. They'll use that against you.
In my very humble opinion, I think my flashlight is a better self-defense tool than my folding knife. A burst of light in your face is going to give me time to figure out what I want to do and probably slow you down a little bit. What do you think, Ben?
I already said I love my flashlight. I use it all the time. I carry it around. If it's dark and I'm any weary, I can't have my gun in my hand, I can walk around with a flashlight in my hand. And it's been more than one person that's walked up to me and I'm going, hey, get back. And they're like, hey, what are you doing, man? I just want my, whatever. Some of them I've known want to do harm, and other ones, like I said, if you did it to a police officer, he's probably gonna shine his big flashlight back at you, but then you look like another police officer shining a light at each other. So don't impersonate a police officer. Let's go more legal stuff. But I agree with you that the flashlight is a better initial tool than the knife for about a dozen reasons.
Yeah. I'm Bob Main. This is the Modern Handgunners, and you are...
He has to remind me who I am all the time. I'm Ben Branham. I'm trying to think of what we're going to do next.